There's no assurances that this is going to be monitored, that there's enough space there. The things that are going to be stored there are pretty scary, so we don't have a plan in place for that, and I think that we need some assurances that this is a safe way to do business, and in other places they've been cited for this not working too well. So I think that FPL should provide more science to show that this could work. There's a rock mine proposed. Dawn, did you want to talk about that?
One of the components that really started my interest in this project was this rock mining proposal that was just, you can see it's just next to the Homestead Air Force Base. And it's in an area where saltwater intrusion we know is already happening. You know, imagine that you're at the beach and you're digging a hole in the sand, you know how the water kind of pops up at the bottom? Well, it's the same phenomenon that happens if you dig a big hole in the limestone aquifer right at an area where we already know saltwater intrusion is happening in our aquifer. So the rock mining component is an effort by Florida Power and Light to use the materials that they're going to pull from underground to put their plant on a 25-foot elevation because of that pesky sea level rise thing we talked about earlier. The way that these lands are zoned at the moment do not permit rock mining. So Florida Power has gone to Miami-Dade County and asked to change our comprehensive plan just for this one little project and justified it as Everglades restoration. They said that once they create a hole in the ground, it'll be a storage place where we can keep water that will be used for an Everglades restoration project known as Biscayne Bay Coastal Wetlands Restoration. It should be known that that plan, which is being administered by the Army Corps of Engineers and the Water Management District, does not have in it a water feature like what's being proposed. So it's a little bit of a red flag there. And the other piece of it is, frankly, the technology doesn't exist. Even if it were possible to pop that hole into the ground and ensure that there's no additional saltwater intrusion into our drinking water supply, you can't store water in it without having major water quality issues. Basically, there's a thermal stratification, which means based on heat, pollution sets at different levels. That water quality would not be allowed to be placed into our wetlands for restoration. So just wanted to make sure that that part was really clear. That original application that claimed that this project was Everglades restoration was actually dropped, and a new identical one that removes the words Everglades restoration and does actually reduce the footprint somewhat has just been filed with Miami-Dade County as another CDMP amendment. So part of this process is going to remain local. I'll let you.
Dawn, when does that come to the county?
We will actually, it's really just now moving. It was just posted online. Miami-Dade Planning and Zoning has it online. You can view it yourself in their CDMP page, and the county planning will sort of make their recommendations to the county commission in early January.
Thank you. Another piece, and again, just to show you, this is the rock mine footprint, although they've made it now 450 acres, not 900 or 800. So it's a different footprint, and so this is inaccurate. Just want to show you, this is a potential road expansion. This is a 4-lane proposed highway. This is a 3-lane highway. Currently, this is a dirt road. And it does have culverts underneath, so there is water flow. These are 3 pumps proposed with BBCW, which is the acronym for Biscayne Bay Coastal Wetlands, the restoration project, and it's supposed to rehydrate this wetland. And so what this does is compartmentalizes the area that we're trying to restore. So again, this is something that we're going to be left standing to deal with as part of their application. And I think, again, it's not in the public's best interest to have to pay not only for the expansion, but later on with our tax dollars to try to deal with something in the way of restoration. And by the way, for those of you who don't realize the value of Biscayne Bay, our economy is based on tourism. If you don't have fish to catch, if you don't have boats to sell, if you're not diving, if you're not looking at birds, why are you here? I mean, most of us live here because of the beautiful weather, because of beautiful Biscayne Bay, beautiful Everglades, and so it directly violates everything that we want here. We want our economy to improve. Well, I assure you that this plan this expansion goes against that completely. Again, you guys are here tonight mostly because you're concerned with transmission lines. I agree with you. One thing I'll point out, this is where we want to grow our city. We actually have public transportation along US 1. Why would we want to put power lines there? I'm always out fighting sprawl. I think it's a bad idea. It's low-lying, it's next to the Everglades. We want to keep that in agriculture, and we want to grow our city. A lot of people call it smart growth. Well, this is the smart place to do it because we have public transportation, so don't put power lines there. That's my view. Another view, why would we want to put power lines right in Everglades National Park, along the edge? Again, aesthetics, tourism, economy, it makes no sense. And from an Audubon perspective, this is a migratory flyway, an international treasure. Why are you going to put these huge power lines here when we know for a fact that birds go from the coastal areas right into the Everglades, and you're going to block that path? So it doesn't make sense, again. Just to sum up, and I'm sorry I'm over time, but we have a lot to say. Potential loss to reuse water targeted for BBCW. I didn't really touch on that, but Biscayne Bay Coastal Wetlands is receiving potentially, depending on the toxicology study that will come out in 2011, water from our reuse. That means that our wastewater or our sewage water will be recycled, cleaned up a bit, put out into the wetlands to actually contribute to that fresh water that we're so lacking. And FPL needs 90 million gallons of it. Well, I can tell you that Biscayne Bay Coastal Wetlands has been earmarked for 90 million gallons of it, and we're concerned that maybe there's not enough of it to go around. So I feel like we need some assurances that there's enough water for Biscayne Bay Coastal Wetlands. And a lot of scientists say that 90 million gallons isn't enough to meet the target salinity of restoration. So we might need more. And is it going to be there when we need it? Are we going to be fighting over reuse water? I think we need to realize how much that water is worth. And I don't think that it takes into consideration when you're thinking about power. Is generating power from water the way to do it in Florida? Probably not. We don't have any water. Saltwater intrusion, this is an issue that we discussed already. The drainage of wetlands, we're trying to rehydrate them. We need to protect ourselves from saltwater intrusion. And this plan will be taking more water from the area we're trying to rehydrate. I didn't really talk about that. It's a little complicated, but a lot of the water goes into the cooling canal system from the interceptor ditch pumps. So for those of you who want more information, I can go over that. The loss of wetlands due to road building, the compartmentalization of the landscape. The conflicts continue, impacts to salinity, we discussed that with the radial wells and the groundwater inflows to the bay. The unknown impacts from aerosol drift. You're putting 30 million gallons a day up in steam. And there's a small component of that that could have endocrine disruptors, it could have vitamins in it. Who knows what's going to be left from reuse water, and you're putting it up as steam right next to agriculture. That's not a good idea. Removal of water from the restored wetlands. Just went over that. Basically, the region that we're trying to restore and rehydrate is going to be drained at the tune of 92 million gallons a month. We basically converted what they supplied us as cubic feet into a monthly rate. This is critical in the dry season. So again, it's hard to go from power lines to thinking about water, but I can tell you that this is a big issue. It affects everything about our economy. And because we're not going to have questions back and forth, please submit them on the cards that are going around. Thank you.
Thank you, Laura. Thank you, Dawn. Just for the record, Dawn Shirreffs is the Program Coordinator for Clean Water Action, and Laura Reynolds is the Executive Director of the Tropical Audubon Society.